Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Garden Shed. In this episode, I'm going to be covering a quick technique that I tried today, where I took my clay and I melted it down so that I could apply it onto my marquette more easily. This technique has already been tried before, but I'm very excited about it, and this is new grounds for me. So I decided to tape it and see how we go with that. Please enjoy.
Alright, so here's the clay that I used. It's Plastilina by Jovi. I put my clay in an old pot and I cooked it on the kitchen stove. The first time that I did this, I ended up burning the clay, which because I put it at a too high a temperature, and this turned it a chocolatey brown sort of colour. On the second time, I cooked it at a much lower temperature, which worked, and I just kept stirring it until it was a nice runny sort of texture. After taking it off the element and letting it set for a little bit, I started applying it to the sculpture. It was still a little hot, and I burned my hands a little bit, so do be aware of that. Also, in hindsight, I think it would be best to perhaps use tools next time. Personally, I just find myself using my hands a lot. It just feels more natural, I guess. It was a great relief for me to be able to put on the clay so quickly. A lot of enthusiasm that I have towards a sculpture, I find becomes lost in this stage just because it takes so long, and it's relatively boring. At the same time, though, I find that it's also the most important to make sure that the base layers work and that the form is correct, or else it ruins the rest of the sculpture. So having the clay nice and soft gave me a good chance to sort of figure out what worked and what didn't, and I was able to put stuff into place. I didn't actually have a concept design for this. I just sort of was improvising. So I was sort of using my knowledge of anatomy and sort of finding a midway point between that and a stylized design. The base there is a piece of scrap wood that I found on the floor, and a piece of PVC pipe that I found on the side of the road. So really I just used scraps and it kind of worked. So after I kind of did this for a little while, I started to sort of think about where I was going to cut out from it. I smoothed it for a little while, and once I got the form correct, I went back in with my loop tool, and I ended up starting to sort of trace out the where the eyes and the midway point were going to be. Here I'm just marking the forehead and the eyes and where the bottom of the nose was going to be. And here I'm laying on some more clay to just kind of define the jaw. This took a bit of to and fro, but it was good because at this stage I could just put stuff on, and if I felt that it worked, I could stay, and if it didn't work, then I could just take it off, and it was easy. Here I'm just extending the forehead a little and smoothing it on there again with my tool. Having these kind of tools is very handy to have. Here I'm just sort of smoothing it back into place and defining the temples just a little more. Yeah, using my hands is quite a bit of a habit that I've sort of developed. Yeah, I'm just sort of marking those lines again after adding the extra layers, and now I'm marking out the eye sockets. And here I'm just sort of digging out the bottom of digging out the jaw, and I'll add the bottom jaw later. But for now I'm just sort of sculpting the top part of the skull. and here I'm just checking for anatomy reference. There on the anatomy chart that I have there, I'm able to sort of figure out what shape roughly the skull is meant to look like, and then I just sort of by adding clay and shaving it off, I sort of was able to find a sort of a shape, base form. And from here I was just sort of marking it up and defining the temples there again. All in all, a really enjoyable for application of the first layer. And once I'm done with this, I can just add the muscle on top.
Well, thank you for watching. Over the next week, I'm going to finish off the sculpture and then produce a final build episode at the end of the week. If there are any questions that you have or techniques that you'd like to know about, please send us a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.